Do you think a relationship can truly thrive if one person is developing and working on themselves and processing and learning new skills and the other person is not?
It's very hard, because I think growth is very important. Mm-hmm. I also think that everyone grows at different speeds and they grow differently. So whereas therapy has been very impactful for you, for someone else it might be something different, right? There's many paths. Doing something, yeah. Right? And I think that people grow at different speeds, and I do think that you have to love someone as though they would never change. Though the funny thing is, it's like we want everyone to sort of grow, to evolve. But we have to.
It shouldn't be on their terms, right? That's why I told her. I said, "Listen, I'm committed to my own growth. I'm going to continue to grow and evolve.
Yes.
But you've got to accept me where I'm at.
Yes.
And if you don't accept me where I'm at now, and you want me to change right now into something that's going to make you happy, this is not going to work.
Or fall in love with potential, which is a trap.
You cannot do that.
No, you cannot do that. And also, what defines growth?
Yeah.
How do you know that you're growing? Because some people will say, they'll go on a retreat or do ayahuasca or do something and be like, oh my God, all of this, And the other person's like, whoa. And then that doesn't mean that the other person's not growing. So it's like, what really, right. I think growing as a couple is really important.
That's why I said we've got to do, what do you call it, coaching or therapy?
I love that.
Committing to it together.
I love that.
Individual on our own and then together.
I love that.
And she was like, yeah, I'm down. So she has her own coach that she works with every 2 weeks for an hour and a half to work on her own stuff individually. I do that as well individually, and then we do it together.
I love that. And
From the beginning. Which has been huge for us.
Oh, I think it should be non-negotiable.
That's why I said, I was like, this is a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
If it's not something you want, then find someone else, and I'll find someone else or whatever, yeah.
Because guess what? No matter how much work we do on ourselves, we're going to be triggered. Mm-hmm. And that inner child is going to come out screaming, and we're going to be like, a total ass sometimes. And, we're going to have to apologize. Mm-hmm. I mean, being in a relationship means that you have to know how to forgive and forgive often, because oftentimes we will make mistakes with the person we love and we didn't even realize that we were doing that. I mean, how many times have you hurt someone's feelings and that was not your intention?
Yeah, so many.
So many.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So many times. So I love, if more people, because the problem is that most people enter couples therapy when it's too late.
When it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah, when there's just too many problems and too many things to unpack. I mean, yes, it can work, it can help, but if you can do this stuff preemptively, it's huge. Anything to prevent resentment.
And pain and suffering and frustration.
Anything, to foster honest conversations, you're gonna win. Even if you end up breaking up, you're going to still win, because at least it won't be the kind of breakup that destroys you.
Yeah, this that
traumatizes
6 month,
you.
Exhausting, painful,
exactly,
hurtful, back and forth.
Yeah, and that's you know what? That's trauma.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah,
and that'll hold people back from opening their heart in the next relationship.
I see it all the time.
Yeah,
people are walking around so wounded and so closed.
What is the most unpopular thing or truth about relationships that most people don't want to know?
And I'll tell you straight up that every relationship you've ever had one thing in common, and that was you. Just like every relationship I've ever had has one thing in common, that's me. It's not that all of them cheat, it's that you keep cheating, you keep choosing cheaters. It's not that, all of them are narcissists, it's that you're choosing the narcissist.
Right.
It's not that, all of them are this or that. You're choosing them. You're part of that. And it's such an uncomfortable truth, because, people don't want to see that in themselves, but it is the path to your freedom, 100%. Every relationship we have ever had has been a mirror, and it shows us where. Sometimes it reflects back to us where we've done a lot of work, and it's lovely. Sometimes it reflects back to us how wonderful we are. And oftentimes in our past, if it hasn't worked out, it's going to reflect where our self-worth is, where our immaturity is. where our trauma is, every relationship we've ever had will reflect back to us the relationship we have with ourselves. Period. End of story. And if one cannot actually accept that, they're just going to keep repeating patterns. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. If your picker is off and busted because...
Man, mine was off for years.
Yeah, because, like, whatever, you're addicted to the chaos, or daddy did this, or mommy did this. It's
familiar.
Of course, it's familiar, and this is very real. I don't mean to say it cavalierly. I mean, it's real. But then you have to recondition yourself to understand what a healthy person is, and go for that and become healthy yourself. Because most toxic relationships, of course, there are abusive relationships where there is actually a very clear victim and a very clear perpetrator. But most of the time, what people refer to as toxic, which is just an overused term in the current zeitgeist, but when people refer to toxic, it's two people with consistent, because we get unregulated once in a while, that's called being human, with consistent unregulated emotional states, blaming each other for each other's pain, and not taking responsibility.
You did this to me. You made me feel this way. What you did hurt me.
And they're constantly unregulated. That's toxicity. Now, I was, when in my 20s, in a horrendous relationship. Talk about chemistry. Because once you have chemistry with someone,
you're screwed.
You're screwed.
You feel this chemical connection. You're like, this feeling, you're intoxicated.
It's a wrap. And the thing is, if you haven't done work on yourself, you're going to have that chemical explosion with the one person who's bad for you. And oftentimes the person who's the best in bed is the person who's the worst for you. And usually you find the sex is amazing with them because there's a danger, and then there's also a familiarity. I mean, there's
like a trauma bonding or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember in my 20s, I was in a relationship with someone for about a year who, without question, is toxic. Like, there's just...
Right. You could feel it. You knew it.
Everyone knows it.
They're like, what are you doing with this guy?
Yeah,
He's treating you this way? And
everyone knows it. It's a fact, right?
But why did you stay then?
Exactly. Where's the toxicity in me, in the low self-worth and all of that? Because the thing about being in a very unhealthy relationship is the two people really bringing out the worst in each other.
Not the best, yeah.
Definitely not even close to the best. To the point where that when that relationship ends, part of getting over that relationship is trying to overcome the shame that you feel for like even going there.
Yeah, I was there. How long of a life did I have with this person? The time and the energy, and how could I do this? And what was I thinking? The shame, the guilt, right?
Yeah, and also just some of the things that you did. That's like, how did I do that?
How did I react this way?
Yeah, like that boundary that I do, or like that thing that I said. Like,
right.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I ask people this sometimes. And I ask my younger self this now. I'm like, if sex was off the table, would I have stayed in certain relationships? And there's no way.
Yeah.
Zero chance I would have stayed after a year or 2 years of feeling like I'm abandoning myself or getting screamed at every week or whatever. I've been like, what am I doing this for? Like,
yes.
Why would I stay in this thing?
Yes.
For whatever reason, that chemical bonds you for a moment. And it's so strong. And then you're like, okay, well, let's have a few good days, and then it goes back into chaos. And you're like, let's get back to that feeling, right?
100%.
But if you took that off the table, or if you just waited for as long as you could.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you have to wait until marriage, but if you wait until you get to experience someone over and over and over again in lots of scenarios, and you felt safe and peaceful, then maybe, okay, you can start into that sexual interaction, but if
and you can make out.
Yeah, of course. I'm just talking about intercourse, right?
Yeah.
But if you took it off the table and you ask yourself, would I be in this if we didn't have sex for a year? Probably you wouldn't.
Yes,
You'd be like, if I'm not gonna have sex for a year with this person, would I put up with this behavior?
Yeah,
would I get screamed at? Would I be yelled at? Like, no.
Exactly.
I don't need this. Right?
Yeah, I don't need this. Exactly. And people, they don't want to wait. And I always say, build that emotional intimacy first. Well, what if the sex is bad? You know what? You can work on it. And when you're making out with them, you know anyway. You can have some idea if there's
feel a connection by making out.
if there's chemistry from a kiss. Period.
Exactly.
So you don't have to go there.
And I've heard this a lot lately. They're like, If someone is boring, you should run towards them, not away from them. You know what I mean?
If all you know is chaos.
Is chemical chaos,
yes.
right? You should run to, that's a safer environment.
Yes.
It doesn't mean he's the one or she's the one to be with for you. But start looking at people that make you feel comfortable and safe.
Yes. Where you can, I tell people all the time who have that pattern of always just dating emotionally unavailable people or people that have been wrong for them. And usually what that person doesn't have the self-esteem necessary to be in a relationship with someone who is going to respect them and love them. But I tell them, just practice, go towards boring. Exactly. Go towards that person so that you can have an experience of being in the presence of someone who you could potentially date, and you can just be totally yourself.
100% yourself.
Yeah.
Authentically
no airs, no strategizing to get someone to be more interested. Yeah, you can flirt and do all that fun stuff, but no strategizing to get someone to be more interested in you, just you. And that is, I mean, that's like revolutionary for some people. When you don't have the tools to deal with the demands of your life, and maybe some of the demands are huge. Maybe they're not so huge, but it's the way you're seeing them that they're so huge. Then you start to disconnect from yourself. Your nervous system gets completely dysregulated. You don't feel like yourself.